Hey guys, how are you guys doing? I wanted to hop on here, and my topic for right now is going to be divorce. I have been talking to several of my friends, males and females, and what I've learned is that a lot of people are going through divorce. A lot of people are thinking about divorce. A lot of people that I know are going through it, have been through it, have gone through divorce. So I kind of wanted to hop on here and talk to you guys about divorce. I know it's a sensitive subject for a lot of us. It's a scary subject. Those of you that don't really know me, I am divorced, and I'm a mom of 5 beautiful children, and I was married for 10 years. And I recently got divorced about 2 years ago. And so I wanted to hop on here and talk to you guys about divorce. So a lot of these posts that I'm seeing from my friends, a lot of the private messages that I'm getting from my friends is that, their marriage is in trouble and they don't know what to do, or they are trying to figure it out. And, leading up to divorce, it doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just wake up one night and say, hey, I want to get a divorce. It takes time of both parties separating from each other, even though you live in the same house, but separating from each other and growing that distance between you two and getting it bigger and bigger and bigger. I know in my instance with my divorce, we both were unhappy. And we both contributed to that gap between him and I. We both contributed to this space. It would start out as just being on our phones and not interacting with each other. It would lead to not having a kiss goodnight or not having a welcome home kiss. It would lead to not being affectionate. It would lead to, one person sleeping on the couch or sleeping in another bedroom, and then doing it one night and then doing it another night and doing it another night, and that turning into months, that turning into years. There's a lot of factors that play into leading up to the divorce. And a lot of times what happens is couples, they don't talk about it. I was a victim of that too. I didn't talk about it. I knew there was problems. I knew there was issues. I knew I contributed to some of those. I knew he was contributing to some of those. And we just didn't talk about it. We didn't discuss it, and we just brushed it under the rug because we didn't want to argue. We didn't want to fight. Anything that I said would set him off. Anything that he said to me would set me off. We were so defensive, and we couldn't get anywhere. So, it's hard to go through. Realizing that your marriage has issues, realizing that your marriage is in jeopardy. And it's hard when one person wants the marriage and the other person doesn't. It's hard when one person's checked out and the other hasn't. And a lot of times when we get into this rut, we don't know what to do. A lot of the times our pride comes into a huge part of it. A lot of time we don't want to be the first one to give in. We don't want to be the one to admit that we're wrong. We don't want to be the one that admits we had a mistake. And so we're embarrassed. A lot of times we're embarrassed that we couldn't make marriage succeed. So we don't want to reach out for help. But, I think that when you realize that your relationship, your marriage, anything is in jeopardy, it's important to talk about those things. It's important to communicate. A lot of times, we say, well, we didn't want to tell you because we knew you would get upset, or we didn't want to hurt you. But by not telling your spouse and by not communicating with your spouse, you're hurting your relationship and you're hurting both of you. So it's really important to have that open communication and be open to listening. And that is a huge part of it. When we're caught up in our emotions and we're caught up in who's right, who's wrong, who's done whatever, we tend to not listen. We tend to be defensive. And so be open to constructive criticism. Be open to getting advice from your loved one, how you can be a better husband, how you can be a better wife. It's something that I practice in my life. I practice with my kids, I tell my kids all the time, tell me how I can be a better mother. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Because if we don't know what we're doing wrong, or we don't know through someone else's eyes, because we might think we're the best boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, mother, father, but that's in our eyes. Our children's eyes, our significant others, their reality might be completely different than ours, and that's not to say they're wrong. That's not to say they're right. But really open that platform to be open to really put it out there and really talk about those issues and talk about how each other can contribute to being a better spouse, a better husband, a better dad, a better mother, because I think we tend to think that it's judging us, but they're not judging us. They just want us to be better. And I know me, I'm harsh on this. I can be very harsh on men. I can be very harsh on my children. I push them because I want them to be the best that they can be. I want to enhance them to being that person that I know that they're capable of being. And so, I'm guilty of that. And sometimes what I say comes out harsh, and I don't mean it to be harsh. I don't mean it to hurt the other person. So I think, going through divorce and looking back at my past, our divorce just didn't happen overnight. We just didn't stop loving each other overnight. Like I said, it started with the little things: not holding hands, not having a welcome home kiss, not having a goodnight kiss, sleeping in different bedrooms. Then that different bedroom became your permanent bedroom, and you were sleeping in different rooms for years. Not talking, not communicating, going through the motions. All of these little things compile, and all of these things make us lead to divorce. And then we wake up one day and we're like, oh, we've been miserable for years. So if you are in that situation, I encourage you to talk to your spouse. I encourage you to be open and honest with them, and don't come at them defensive. Just tell them, this is how I am feeling. You might not be feeling the same way, but this is how I feel. And put it out there. Have an open platform, and expect for him or her to come back at you and say, well, I'm feeling the same way, or I'm feeling this about you, or these things that you make me do make me feel this certain way. And be open to that. If you feel like you can't talk to one another without getting upset, because when you're leading up to filing for divorce, you're very fragile, you're very emotional, you're very raw. And so when you're leading up to that, if you can't have a conversation with your significant other, go to counseling. It's not embarrassing to go to counseling. It's not saying you're a failure by going to counseling. It's not saying that you don't know how to be in a relationship or that you have a problem. It's helping you understand your spouse. It's helping you learn how to communicate with your spouse, because we all have different communication styles. We all have different love languages. And so going to counseling, whether it's with your church, seeking a therapist outside of the church, going to those things can help you guys understand each other and understand the real problems, because you might think, oh, he's not affectionate because of this, or he's not making me a priority because of this, but it might lead to something that is from his past of why he's acting that way, or from her past why she's acting that way. So it's important to go to counseling. It's important to deal with those issues that may have been triggered through your childhood, your youth, your young adult life. I mean, those things might contribute to you having issues in your relationship. So it's hard when one person wants the relationship. I know I've been talking to a couple of you lately, and one person wants the relationship and your spouse has checked out. What do? You guys have come to me to ask me, and I've been there. It sucks. It sucks being the one that wants the relationship and the other one's like, I don't know if I can love you. I don't know if I'm in love with you. I don't know if I can love you again. I don't know if we can find that spark again. And all you want is to hear that you love me. All you want to hear is that, you guys are going to work at it to get back to where you were. And when you've come to the point of filing for divorce, it may seem like you can't go back and you can't there may be like no light at the end of the tunnel, thinking, I can never love this man again. I can never love this woman again. But you can. If both of you have love for each other and both of you truly want it to work and both of you truly believe that, you know, you guys are meant for each other, you can work through your problems. You just have to figure out how to get back there. You have to figure out all these issues and deal with them and talk about them and fix them one by one, which can be overwhelming. So take it one by one and fix those issues. So do that. Another thing I want to say is some people have come to me and said, hey, Jess, people are telling me to leave. People are telling me she's no good for me. People are telling me that he's no good for me. People are telling me that I need to divorce him or her, that, all these things. Don't listen to people, okay? Do not listen to people. I think when you're going through divorce, you want to keep it as private as possible. Not because you don't want your skeletons out of the closet, but because when you start talking to him, her, posting it on Facebook, telling everybody that you're going through a divorce and telling everybody what he did wrong to you, but yet you're playing victim here, it leads to all these opinions. It leads to people putting their input in and telling you, and it confuses you even more because you have some people saying leave him. You have some people saying give him a chance. You have some people saying, well, you know what? You need to just do him wrong. You need to come out swinging and you need to be this bitter, scorned woman or man for what the other person did to you. And you get clogged up. Your emotions are clogged. Your brain is clogged. You get confused. You don't know what to do. And then you're more confused than when you started. So what I tell people is, I filed for divorce twice. First time I filed for divorce, it wasn't time for me to file for divorce. So we made amends, and then a couple years later we filed for divorce again. But leave when you are ready. And only you. Don't leave for anybody else. Don't leave for someone else. Don't leave because someone has told you to leave. And don't leave because you're trying to please people. If you have tried all your resources of, talking to your spouse, of going to therapy, of trying to find ways to work it out, of reading self-help books, of taking classes, going to retreats, doing all these things, and you feel in your heart that there's nothing left, and you will know, because when you're completely empty, there's no reason to fight. There's no reason to argue. You walk away and you say, hey, it's over. I'm sorry and I wish you the best. When I went through my divorce, it wasn't bad. It was like, hey, we fell in love. We tried. It's not working. And now we're at our final option. We've been unhappy for several years, and it was our time to file for divorce. And it was our time to let each other find that happiness and to let each other find what we were missing. So don't leave for somebody else. Don't leave because people are telling you to leave. Leave when you know in your heart, and you will know. And if you say, well, I don't know yet, then you're not ready. But leave when you know in your heart that you can completely walk away with no regrets. No regrets. Leave when you know you've done what's best. You've exhausted all your resources. You've tried to save your marriage. You have done what therapists, counseling, books, seminars, retreats have told you to do. You've given it 100%. Then when you're ready to walk away, because it doesn't matter if someone in your family thinks you should leave or not. It doesn't matter if your friends think you should leave or not. It matters for you to be happy. And if you're not happy in a situation, then you need to save yourself time. You need to save your spouse's time. And also your kids, because kids suffer the most when we're in this little, not know if we're leaving, not know if we're staying type of thing. I did it. Me and my ex-husband, we stayed in it for 6 years after being unhappy. Our children saw that. Our children felt that. Our children witnessed us being unhappy. And, you know, we used to say, well, we're staying for the kids, or we're trying for the kids, or we're doing this for the kids. But at the end of the day, that was 6 years of trauma we were causing our kids. That was 6 years of sporadic arguing that we were causing to the kids. That was 6 years of unhappiness, of bitterness, of anger that we were exposing our children to. And if I could go back when I knew it was over, I think both of us would have left sooner because of the damage it did to our children by staying. So if you have kids involved, I know a lot of you say, well, I stay because of my kids, or I won't ever see my kids again, or I won't, or she'll hold them against me, or he'll hold them against me. But just think about the trauma you're putting your kids through, because it's hard on children. It's hard on children to see that. It's hard on children to witness that. It's just very hard on the kids. And so you're doing more harm staying than you are leaving and figuring out how to co-parent together. Let's see. Some people would say, well, why do people stay if they're unhappy? Why do people stay if they're miserable? A lot of people stay in a relationship or a marriage because fear of the great divide. You know, I had someone tell me the other day, you know, Jess, I'm scared of the dividing the community property 50-50. I'm scared of who gets the house. I'm scared of, you know, who gets, you know, you might have one vehicle, who gets the vehicle. You know, there's a lot of things that people are scared about, and, you know, they're scared about the kids. You know, who are the kids going to go with? Are they going to see you as a fit parent? They're scared about it financially being easier, because when you have two incomes and you go down to one, that's scary. That's scary. You know, you think, how am I going to make it type thing. So, you know, I just say to that, I know it's scary. I've been there. When I got my divorce, I was a stay-at-home mom. I did not have that income, and I hadn't worked in 10 years. You know, I was the mom to stay at home, raise our children, and that was it. So, I get it. It's scary, but if you're unhappy and you know your marriage is over, you just got to do it. You got to figure it out, you know, like anything else, you just figure it out. So, you know, and a lot of times people said, well, why would you continue to have kids if you knew your marriage was over 6 years ago? I was trying to create my own happiness. I was trying to, you know, give my ex-husband, you know, his son that he always wanted. I was trying to, like I said, kids made me happy. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was trying to create my own happiness, and I loved this man, and I know that he loved me, and we were trying to make it work, and we were trying to be that family, but we just couldn't repair a relationship. So filing. So we've gone through what leads up to divorce. We've gone through your thoughts and kind of your emotions. Let's talk about filing. The day that someone actually files for divorce and you get served the papers that your spouse wants a divorce. Sometimes you talk about it as a couple and you file together. Sometimes one person goes behind your back and serves you papers. It can be a complete shock to you, even if you know that your relationship was on the rocks. It's scary because it's a raw emotion. It's unknown. Sometimes people are bitter and angry and the gloves come off and people start slinging mud. You know, it's an emotional roller coaster. Going through divorce is not pretty. It's an emotional roller coaster. It has its ups, its downs. It is a crazy ride, you know. And when I was going through my divorce, I thought, man, if they just made it harder to get married than anything, then, you know, as hard as it is to get divorced, you know, it took me a year before we could agree and we could, you know, divorce. So, you know, if they made it harder to get married and everything, as much as they make it hard to get divorced, you know, maybe we wouldn't have this. I don't know. Maybe our divorce rate wouldn't be so high. I have no clue, but I just know that when you file for divorce, Whether you're the one filing or not, it's hard, it's an emotional roller coaster. I believe that you should have that one person, that one friend that you lean on to going through divorce. I think each party should have that person. Not saying a boyfriend or girlfriend, not saying, run into the arms of a man or woman. I don't agree with that, but I think you should have that one friend that you can talk to, that you can cry to, that you can tell your fears to while you're going through divorce and vent to, because I think it's important to have that. Like I said, I don't believe in having a lot of people know what's going on or have a lot of people involved in your business. But I do think it's important to have that one person that you can run to after court, during court, when you're going to these hearings, when you're battling over children. I think it's important when you're, because during this time it brings up a lot of emotions with your ex, and you can fight over the smallest things because there's still that raw emotion when you're going through a divorce. So, if you are going to go through divorce, I suggest having that one really good friend that you can vent to, talk to, because I know I did. When I was going through my divorce, I was sad, I was bitter, I was angry, I had regrets, I was in a raw state. I was like, okay, maybe it's easier to go back to him. Or did I do the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? What about my kids? When I saw my kids cry, it was hard. It's a hard thing to go through. So, so it's tough to go through divorce. It's not easy. And I'm sorry if any of you are having to go through divorce. I hope that you can save your marriage with your husband or your wife. And, you guys can get help so you don't have to go through the same thing that I went through or that my ex-husband went through. But, when it's final, because there's some of you that are currently going through divorce, just know when your divorce is final, it's a huge burden lifted off your shoulders, especially if you've been going through divorce for a year, 2 years. Some people have gone through longer. I highly recommend finding yourself after your divorce is final. A lot of people want to say, well, let me start dating again, or let me run into the arms of a man or a woman. And, I don't agree with that. I think that if you've been in a relationship like I was in a relationship for marriage for 10 years. Me and my ex-husband needed to find ourselves after our divorce, because a lot of times during marriage, you start to change. You change to who he wants or who she wants. You change little things about you. Things that get on her nerves or his nerves, you start to stop doing. Things that he likes you to do, you start doing. She likes you to do, you start doing. She doesn't want you to do, you stop doing. Same thing. He doesn't want you to do, you stop doing. So a lot of times in marriage, we're not who we were on day one when we're at 10 years later. And so when we go through a divorce, we need to take that time to really mourn the divorce, because that's tough for anybody to go through. Whether it was your fault or not, it's tough realizing that you're divorced, you're single again. So you need to really go through the grieving stage, grieve your divorce. You also need to find yourself. Figure out what makes you happy, love yourself. Find that love and inner peace within yourself. Because if you immediately get divorced and then you run into the arms of another man or woman, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're just rebounding to have someone because you're scared of being alone, or you need somebody. Sometimes men or women just need to have a man or a woman in their life, and so they jump into something that feels secure to them. For me, it took me 2 years to get back on my feet, to be financially stable, to be at peace, to be able to co-parent, to be able to have financial stability, to be able to find the career that I wanted, find out what made me happy. Also for my kids to adjust. My kids took it hard, as any child would. And so they needed to adjust to having separate homes, having a mom home, having a dad home, having visitations, and just having one parent in their life. So take the time after your divorce to find yourself again and find out who you really are, who you want to be, and what your new goals in life are going to be, without identifying yourself with a spouse. Because when you get in your next relationship should enhance you. It shouldn't change you. It shouldn't mold you to who you want. You shouldn't be codependent. It should really enhance you and enhance all the amazing things about you. You shouldn't be codependent or any of those things. And I learned that by my ex. I was very codependent on him. I relied on him a lot for a lot of things. And I can only imagine the stress that he was in, having to support such a big family and, having to worry about all the burden of the financial stress on him. So really become at peace with yourself, have your financial stability, and when you go to find that next person, deal with all your baggage first, because we have a lot of baggage, whether we want to admit it or not, after divorce. We have trust issues, insecurities, jealousy. We have barriers, and you shouldn't hold the next person responsible that comes into your life for those issues that happened in your past, because they're not your ex-husband. They're not your ex-wife. They are someone completely new that has not hurt you, that has not done anything wrong to you, and that should not be held to a standard of, oh, it's not, it's when you're going to do something wrong to me. It's when you're going to hurt me. Or I don't trust you now because you may do this. My ex did this. They're not your ex. Don't hold them up to that standard, because you're only hurting your new relationship. So take the time to deal with your baggage. Take the time to find yourself. Take the time to get stable again. And it's not going to happen overnight. It can take, like I said, it could take months, it could take years. Mine was 2 years to finally be able to say, I'm at peace with myself, I'm happy with myself, I'm happy where my life is, I'm happy where my kids are, and now I'm gonna reach my dreams and I'm gonna make them happen and set all these goals in my life, and I'm gonna do it for me, for my family. So, happiness can exist again after marriage, after divorce, and all those things. So, keep your head up, don't get discouraged. And if you need someone to talk to vent to, I'm here. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just telling you from my own personal experience what I went through my divorce, and that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and don't give up on love. I think love is a beautiful thing. It's a magical thing when you're in love with someone. So don't give up on that, but make sure you're ready for that when it does come, because if you're not, you're just hurting the person that is ready for that when they come to be a part of your life. So anyway, you guys have an amazing day. Enjoy your weekend, and that's just my little spiel about divorce, and I hope that none of you have to go through it. And if you are going through it, I'm sorry that you're having to go through an emotional roller coaster. I'm sorry that you're having to go through all these emotions and feelings and confusion and hurt. And if you need someone to talk to, I'm here to talk to you. Or just to let you vent, or just let you get things off your chest. I'm not really here to give you like you need to divorce or you don't need to divorce or whatever. I'm just here, like I said, to listen, because I've been there. I've done that. Unfortunately, my marriage wasn't successful, and after 10 years, we called it quits. But it doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't make you not lovable. It doesn't make you anything. It's just you realize that needs to come to an end, and you realize that's no longer working, and you need to allow each other, you need to allow him or her to go find their happiness, just like you deserve to go find your happiness, whatever that may be. So be grateful for the time that you had that amazing, beautiful love. Be grateful for what came out of that if you have beautiful children. The memories that you'll always share and hold close to you. And then get ready for your next chapter in life. And, choose not to be bitter or scorn. Because if you choose to be bitter or scorn after divorce, you're never going to reach happiness. You're never going to reach real love again. So forgive your spouse for what they did, and admit to what you did and apologize. It's hard to do when you're going through divorce, but some point after, I recently apologized to my ex-husband. He apologized to me 2 years later. Eventually it has to be done so you can move on. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.